Good afternoon, good morning to all of you. So this is the kick-off for our second series of the webinars that we've been running for the BI upgrade piece. Slight change of format today because it is the introductory meeting effectively for 2015 here. I'm going to take you on a tour of some of the most useful links that we reference during our workshops that we run primarily, but also links that I recommend to customers on a daily basis. And so this will be a collection of three things actually. So I'm going to show you around this site here that I've got up at the moment. This is an SAPBI.com. It's a shortened URL. It used to be much longer than that. This is a kind of landing page where we're maintaining a lot of useful information for your projects and implementations. I'm also going to be navigating around some useful links that are found on the community network, so the SCN. That's effectively our forums for technical questions amongst the community there, and also a useful place for blogs and other technical documents that are shared. Also, the service marketplace, the support portal where you as customers log your incidents with our technical services. I'm going to take you around the new interface there in case you haven't seen it before too. And last but not least, if time allowing, I'll show you some of the useful resources on our wikis. So wikis are living documents which are maintained by yourselves as well as our employees and cover in the deepest level of technical detail some aspects of our technologies. So let me start with the website I have in front of me here. So this is SAPBI.com, and the most useful parts on this site, in my opinion, this is a collection of articles, incidentally, which can cover all sorts of things, including updates to licensing models, how to embed predictive assets, or what is predictive, that kind of thing. However, if you look down here in the middle, the Competency Center Assessment Survey. This is a topic that comes up all the time when I work with customers. The willingness is there, the project is there, the funding is there, but internally within the customer site there's often a lack of coordination between the technical teams to make sure that this information is retained and shared within departments. So this BICC assessment survey down here does help identify areas where you could improve your readiness of your implementation and project teams. And if I scroll back up to the top, you see along here there's various tabs that I can move between. If I was to select BI Champion, so a BI Champion really is someone or a group in your organisation of people who are the most up to date in terms of the technology that we're delivering and also are the key empowerers for your implementation project. What I particularly like about this page, if I draw your eyes to this link, bottom left here, how to use design thinking to make sure that you're delivering projects that your customer base actually wants, but also some top topics here, such as the BI Statement of Direction. If you're not familiar with these, very much worth reading into, and particularly important is the Convergence Plan. So for those of you who don't know what the Convergence Plan is, this is a view of our roadmap, but also explaining which are our strategic clients, and those are the ones that you should consider when planning your project. Back to the top again, if I switch now to the Strategy tab, this site has a collection of surveys and links to questionnaires to help you as a project or a delivery team make an assessment of which points you are strongest on, or where you have some weaknesses, or perhaps explore some areas that you haven't yet considered. And as you can see here, there is a link here to the strategy assessment itself, and this will help you identify the goals within your organisation and how we can help deliver those with a longer view. Now, when it actually comes to implementing or upgrading, again, referring to the tabs at the top, in each one of these verticals, we do have a link again to a kind of question and answer type survey, which at the end of that exercise produces a hard copy report, a PDF, which you can share and reuse within your project team. And it helps identify all of the key touch points that you need to consider, from the usual topics like virtualization, sizing, configuration, deployment tips, authentication protocols, that kind of thing. So the implementation report is a really sound basis on which to gauge where your project delivery is at or where it needs to go to next. So these are very much business focused, but also with some technical touch points as well. Next, into the Upgrades tab of this website, we have the Upgrade Report. So you can actually plan the major milestones that your project should be delivering. So it's very much geared towards the project management audience, but with rigorous milestones that tie into the implementation piece that I just mentioned a moment ago. And it also helps you build your business case as you try and get investment from the business to help sponsor the technical implementation as well. It helps break it down into bite-sized pieces. Okay, and there are other links going on from this website. For example, the events and webinars. These will refer back into Jan's webinar series that you're attending here today, but also it does touch on some of the face-to-face workshops that we deliver throughout the US and EMEA and beyond. So it could be that there's a workshop running in your region that you might want to subscribe to help you get on your journey of the upgrade and migration to BI 4.1. And last but not least, there's also a collection of links to technical blogs, and a good number of these actually refer back to the SCN, the community network, which I'll steer around shortly. So that's it for the sapbi.com website. And what I'd like to do next is I'd like to take you on a little tour of the support portal. So I mentioned to you at the start of the call that the support portal has been redesigned. It's been simplified so that the key objects or buttons to click are more prominent. A lot of the content has been migrated over from the old portal. However, there are still some bits and bobs that are still yet to be migrated. Case in point would be probably the roadmap information, and I'll show you that shortly. So the support portal is where you report your incidents, also manage remote connections. That's a really important one, and I'll come back to that shortly. Probably the least or most often overlooked area of our resources is help.sap.com. So this is the home of all of our help documentation. For business objects and BI implementation projects, you'd navigate down the Analytics tab, and then you expand Business Intelligence, and here we have the full portfolio of our Business Intelligence architecture. Now, just switching back to the support portal for a moment, in order to find out the latest and greatest information, what you want to do is you want to be searching the notes space. Okay, here we go. So when you're launching the knowledge base search, you do so from here. And then you could use your search terms. For example, let's go for BI 4.1, patch 5, release, as an example of some of the key terms that I might want to type in. And hopefully this will locate for me a knowledge base article. Okay, so I can see here that the most recent patch on the SP5 code line is patch 5. It came out on the 6th of May here today, and this is just an example of a knowledge base. This has links to the download objects, that kind of thing. So if you're not familiar with the knowledge base search, it's support.sap.com/notes. I'm still surprised to this day how few customers use this resource. It's really the first entry point into any kind of troubleshooting or investigation. Okay, if I now step back to the support page, you'll see at the top there is a whole host of useful areas that you can drop into. Probably one area that I'm most interested in is the area of remote support. So this is allowing our engineering teams or expert on demand, that kind of thing, to investigate into your system. Okay? And we have, first of all, we need you to manage your support connections on your side using the SAP router. And there is an overview of connection types, for example. These could be anything from the classic R3 backend login, but it could also be HTTP-based tools or URL access. Further still, we have like WTS, Windows Terminal Server, or if it's a matter of database connectivity, then we are able to open up JDBC or ODBC connections to your data sources. Why would we do this? Well, it simply helps our engineering teams investigate quicker and arrive at the root cause analysis quicker with your help. And often this does not need you to be online at the time of investigation. This can be done independently, even outside of office hours. Okay, I'm just going to scroll back to the top, head back to the support portal. Okay. Some of the other useful areas of this would include the roadmaps part. In order to hit the roadmaps, you need to go to release and upgrade maintenance info. And from here, we have really important things such as the maintenance schedules, the product availability matrix, so that's all the compatibility between components. Just give you a quick look at what that looks like. So the PAM, or product availability matrix, is a really complicated living document. It applies for all of our SAP products, not just analytics and BI products. And for example, this is the BI 4.1 PAM that you would open up here. So I'm just going to step back out of that again. Other important things in here would include our maintenance schedules. Case in point for BI Business Objects, this would be an analytics maintenance schedule. And this will give you a forward-looking view of the planned milestones for this year. For example, you can see that the BI Platform 4.1 has got an SP6 coming mid-June, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that was a really quick tour of the support marketplace and some of the key links there. The next thing I'd like to show you is going to be in the SCN. So I'm just going to start off first of all by hitting the page that Jan maintains for the purposes of these webinars. This is our session here today. I'm just going to zoom in slightly so you can see. So I'm going to now navigate the links that I most frequently recommend to my own customers, okay? And I'm really going to take a top-down approach here, a kind of logical sequence, if you like. So when it comes to planning your upgrades, we've got this fantastic page here all about planning your upgrade. It has its own unique link there, sap.com upgrade BI. And this is a landing page, a collection of items that you can navigate. They all refer out to further links. It's a link farm of sorts. Okay, so that is a fine landing page, sap.com upgrade BI. Spawning off from these pages are some of the key topics that you need to be discussing with your customers or your implementers. For example, the BI4 sizing guide is a crucial resource. We all know about this one. We've had a number of webinar sessions on this previously, and we'll have some more in the future of that, I'm sure. So the BI4 sizing guide, which incidentally has also been extended to cover other integration assets that we now have in the platform, including Lumira, for example. The next link I've chosen here are the sample universes and reports for BI4. In the previous versions, in Exercise 3.1, we used to package these and deliver them as business content into the product. It's worth noting that we don't do that in 4.0 nor 4.1. So we provide these samples as a basis for you to develop your own content. We don't offer, unfortunately, any level of support through our technical services for the maintenance of these reports and universes. I can tell you our hopes and aspirations for the next minor release this year, BI 4.2, is that we are hoping and we are planning to ship audit reports and universes in the standard business content of BI 4.2. That is all still to be confirmed. Back momentarily to the topic of sizing. So this actually has its own microsite URL as well. It's sap.com/BI sizing, and it brings you to this very fine landing page in the area of BI solution architecture, and it includes other sizing guides such as Lumira, as well as the BI sizing guide, and other outward links to the sizing estimator, for example, past sizing webinars, add-on specific sizing guides like Explorer as well, and a host of other useful links that I'm going to walk you through in a moment. We also have a very similar microsite, but instead for the purposes of virtualization, and from that site, probably my preferred document that I refer to customers are these best practices for virtualization on VMware ESX. It's an exceptional document and has some really fine best practices and recommendations towards the end of that document there. Incidentally, all of the links that I'm navigating here today, I am going to share these in a static or offline format with Jan so that they are accessible by yourselves. I realise you can't all write these down as I'm going through it. Here's another useful presentation in this case from one of our UK-based colleagues, Bill Lang. He presented this presentation, during a user group conference a year or so ago, and has some really excellent real-world examples and recommendations. And yeah, it makes essential reading if you have not done already. The next page I'd like to navigate to is Learn BI. So sap.com/Learn BI. And that URL redirects, in fact, to an SCN page. And these are our BI4 tutorials. It covers the entire suite. There are child branches for each product or component. But really this is the master page, the landing page that rolls up all of these different areas of our product. So if you need to find out more about our product or new features, emerging features, then this is where you need to come. sap.com/Learn BI. And following on from those suite tutorials is another type of training. This one is called the process flows. Okay, so for each and I haven't gone to process flows. No, this is correct. So yeah, these are the process flows. So for each and every one of our workflows that we support in the BI platform, it can invoke different parts of the architecture, different processing servers, hitting different tiers of the architecture. Some are simpler than others. But what we have here is a really comprehensive breakdown of the process flows covering all the different data access types. I mean, case in point here would be to refresh a WebI document on a multi-source data source using relational universes. Let's have a look at that process flow. And these are interactive documents when they load. Okay, it's not working in my browser type at the moment. But the process flows here are really crucial to help you and your technical team onboard the platform so that you're all talking about the same money and understanding each other in technical terms. When I'm trying to encourage my customers to upgrade, I'm also talking about the not only the technical perspective but the business use case or the business perspective, and to deliver a successful platform that your users are going to onboard to, there has to be performance there. And performance can mean, the tuning of the processing tiers or the database itself, and any kind of latency around the network and the disk, but particularly in the area of the web applications. And there are some really quick wins that we can get through simple architectural changes which are not installed out of the box but need to be configured post-installation, one of which is this fantastic article by my old friend James Rapp here. He has a series of these articles. This was the first, and it describes the process of splitting Apache and Tomcat so that the static and dynamic web content are handled by separate components, and there are some significant performance gains that could be had simply by doing that. Similarly, this is an update to the same document, but updated now for BI 4.1. Okay, and so this is a supplement to that same first article I showed you, again authored by Jim. And you can just see how many times this gets voted up. We've got 40 to 50 endorsements on this article, and going on for 11,000 hits. Fantastic document. So the SCN really is a living, breathing part of our community, and it's very much worth your time looking around and seeing what articles have been published recently, what new addenda are there to existing documents, that kind of thing. Now, one that I stumbled across only recently, which caught my eye, is hopefully going to load in a second for you. I'm just going to close a few of these old tabs in case that's part of the problem. Here we go. So timeout settings in BI4. So I don't know Janos, but I'd like to meet him because he's written this fantastic article recently about all the different timeouts in the architecture. So there are many of them, different processing tiers, different web tiers, different XMLs and other parameters, and some of them are accessible through the CMC, and some of them can only be changed by maintaining properties or XML files on the server. So fantastic document all about the timeout settings, and this is a very common question from our customers. Probably the hottest topic of 2012, 2013 for the BI implementations were the tuning of the APS, or adaptive processing servers. And this article, this document by Jan de Wilde, is a serious heavyweight document. It's had nearly 50,000 hits in the last couple of years. It's a fantastic best practice guide. For those of you who've looked at the admin console in 4.1, we did implement a configuration wizard to help with the task of splitting the adaptive processing servers, which does a damn fine job of it. But if you're going to take your platform configuration to the next level, then this is the document that you need to become familiar with. So we've covered some web tier, we've covered some processing tier best practices here. The next thing that I'd like to show you is some backup and maintenance processes and best practices, in this case for Sybase SQL Anywhere, or SAP SQL Anywhere. And so we've got a really excellent technical document about targeted to the DBAs of your BI platform, and it describes all types of backups and strategies that you need to implement, as well as how to recover from these kinds of incidents. So again, a new article, fantastic article, and one that I'm promoting quite widely at the moment. The next article that I've just clicked on and hopefully will load in a second, here it is an overview from one of our product managers in Vancouver, Greg, who now works in the Lumira area. He did a lot of work not so long ago in the area of authentication, and here we have a document which wraps up, summarizes all the different authentication types versus the different applications or application interfaces that we have on the platform. So it's a great one-stop shop to understand what can be done where, and hopefully try and prevent any gotchas during your assessment before you implement. And it's not just SAP who publishes to the SCN. You know, this is a community network, and we've got some key collaborators. For example, AJ, he works in the US timelines, and you know, he's publishing lots of good content on the SCN as well. In this case, how to update the Java runtime that's used by Tomcat, so the web application server. You know, SAP does package these components when we can during the maintenance intervals, usually a support package in the case of a new supported platform. But there are always the gurus out there who want to be ahead of the curve and try and implement some of the latest enhancements from our third-party components and bring that into the core BI platform. So, you know, kudos to you guys, and keep up the great work. Stepping back for a moment, back to the content conversion topics. We are end of life in XI 3.1 this year, and that means desktop intelligence is coming to a close, which means that our customers are now in a situation where they're really having to decide on their next steps, whether that be converting their deskies to webies or leaving them behind as they develop from scratch in a new environment. There is, of course, the option of the compatibility pack, which I'll refer to in a moment. But if you are planning to convert your desktop intelligence estate into web intelligence, then you could do no worse than traveling to this page here. So here is a very complete article describing the end of life I've just mentioned, the compatibility pack, which will allow some Desky thick clients to remain and integrate with the BI 4.1 CMS, and some other procedures and checklists for converted reports, that kind of thing. So we did run a dedicated webinar about this last year. I just wanted to highlight the fact that we do have some very strong resources on the SCN there for you to check out. So that's a high-level project methodology with some technical implementation tips to consider. But we do have some very low-level best practices, real bits and bytes stuff. For example, here, tips on how to optimize web intelligence documents, and that could be small little tweaks that you can make to the Java applet, but also some best practices around report design, which we could all do well to remind ourselves about. Also semantic layer choices and other considerations. So Jonathan Brown is one of our lead support architects based out of the US, and is an expert in the field of web intelligence, and we always welcome his contributions to the SCN. So web intelligence there, and in this case, how to performance tune reports based on BICS, so the BICS or BI Consumer Services for SAP Business Warehouse, BW customers specifically. This new connectivity API has been around for a few years now. That doesn't mean that it doesn't need some tuning. So yes, there are always notes that need to be implemented in the basis or ABAP backend. And on the front end, in the business objects components, whether it be Webby or another client tool, then there are some best practices and ways to trace where the time is being spent and to optimize that execution plan. This article here was put together by Kurt, one of our top engineers in the area of analytics and predictive. He's based out of the Benelux region. Yeah, very useful article here. And these are the methodologies that our own engineering teams and support engineers use themselves when you get in touch with them. Okay, so we shared this in the spirit of openness so that you can become as adept as we are at troubleshooting your issues. Last year we had some excellent webinar series, and we had some experts from the Paris development teams who traditionally specialized in the universe semantic layer, but also in the web intelligence calculation engine and the UI. Again, in the spirit of openness, we have been explaining to you in the community that there have been changes in the calculation engine. That means how the numbers reconcile in the body of the reports. Over time, we fix bugs, and the fixing of bugs does change the behavior of some customers' reports. I don't mean to sound alarmist, because this is nothing big to worry about. It might only impact, maybe less than 1% of your reports. But these articles here, these technical guides, are super detailed, and they will go down right into the minutiae of the formula. If I just pick one at random, a where operator on a measure with a condition based on a formula based on a dimension. If you know where to find that in the report, the chances are you designed the report in the first place. So there's some real technical things that have been documented and that you need to be aware of. If not, someone else needs to be in your project team. And just stepping back from the detail of a client tool for a moment and thinking more holistically about your BI platform. BI4 does have its own monitoring solution in the CMC. We know that, we use it, and we love it. And Toby Johnston, who's one of our top consultants in the US here and an expert in the area of supportability. Supportability means monitoring applications, other integration assets like this guide here, as well as the remote connections from your box via an SAP router to our AGS colleagues. But what I wanted to highlight here is Toby's guide on how to extend the current monitoring capabilities in BI4 and bring in Intrascope, previously known as Wiley Intrascope. This is a enterprise monitoring tool. You can have a dedicated instance that can supervise and investigate across multiple installations, not just a single cluster, and really powerful modules in there from the some high-level dashboards, and you can drill down using the investigator, and you can go down further still and use the transaction tracer to find out where the most expensive calls are happening and why and which user, and etc., etc. So if you're not familiar with Intrascope as an option for extending the monitoring capabilities of your BI platform, then it's something you should definitely consider. We often position this as a stepping stone towards Solution Manager. Okay, so Solution Manager is a large-scale enterprise module that, in amongst all of its many capabilities, is monitoring. If that is too big a project for you to undertake, and by the way, it uses a lot of the core components of Intrascope, then we recommend Wiley Intrascope as a middle ground if that's a journey you're willing to invest in. I'm just keeping an eye on the time there. It's just gone 22. Good. I'm more or less on track. There are other really useful articles. It's less technical, I'd say, but for example, branding and theming of the BI Launchpad. So if you want to incorporate logos, corporate colors, you can do this using CSS templates, and you do it once, and you retain those changes. They are not overwritten by updates, so long as you put it into the right folder, that kind of thing. So branding and theming, we've got some great technical articles by Christina. That was before she moved over into the world of Lumira. And also, another useful article that I get asked about an awful lot is the concept of multi-tenancy. So having multiple tenants or lines of business or customers on a single shared platform, a little bit like software as a service but hosted internally. Hopefully when this article pops up I can show you some more about that. So with multi-tenancy you have the ability to onboard new lines of business quickly in a repeatable way with a repeatable org structure, users, groups, folders, universes and reports. And when you onboard your new tenants, there would be some restrictions or variables that would make sure that they would only see perhaps their regional specific datas. And there's also the ability to restrict the like throttle back certain tenants so that other tenants can take priority on the platform, etc., etc. But there is a useful document here on SCN about how to use multi-tenancy on BusinessObjects BI 4.1. Another technical article that I love and I refer to a lot is this one here. This is a recent enough article by Sonnet, and she's an absolute expert in the semantic layer. So this is a semantic layer article, and it's around the topic of data federation. So for those of you that don't know, the Data Federator used to be a separate product in the previous XI 3.1 family of applications. It was part of the Enterprise Information Management portfolio, like data services, for example. In BI4 and 4.1, some of those federation features have been implemented into the semantic layer. The way that you invoke those is when you create a multi-source universe. So this is a workflow that you do through the information design tool. When you choose a multi-source enabled connection, it will invoke the data federation engine on the BI platform, which, by the way, is a type of adaptive processing server that needs its own special sizing considerations. And there's a dedicated sizing guide for data federation itself as a workflow if you support it on your platform. Data federation is the linking of two separate schemas or tables. They could be in different physical databases or the same one, and to materialize that information into a single view or into a single universe. So it's possible to join oracles and MS SQLs and whichever relational database types you can think of and bring them into one single universe for downstream consumption by your users. And coming back to this article, we have an admin tool, which is a server-side client, which is very much positioned for the database administrator, and they would use it to capture the runtime statistics of the multi-source universe and the queries that are being fired from the reports above it. And you can tune, the execution plan so that these are done in a more performant sequence. So a great document there. Last but not least, on my collection of SCN links, I wanted to show you, I'm just going to open Chrome for this purposes, I wanted to show you the cluster patching guide. We have an interactive cluster patching guide. Since BI 4.0 SP5, we've had support for parallel patching. So if you've got a multi-node clustered deployment, some processing nodes, some intelligence nodes, that kind of thing, then it is possible now to reduce the amount of maintenance and time spent on the patching exercise by doing some of these setups or updates in parallel. Okay, and this cluster patching guide serves to illustrate that effect. What you do is you use the drop-down lists to select your options. Let's say you're going from 4.0 SP5 to 4.1 SP5. You've got many CMSs, you've got many processing tiers, and you've got many web tiers. And as you can see, as I click through here, it actually creates a schematic on the right-hand side. You might want to elaborate further. Your FRS are dedicated, separate. Your database repositories on a separate node, and etc., etc. Perhaps you have an add-on as well. When you come to confirm and click through, and you press start, it will describe to you in a textual way your various steps and how you need to proceed in sequence when doing the parallel patching. So that's a neat article, definitely highly recommended. Okay, I'm very nearly done, and what I wanted to turn my attention to for these last few minutes are the wikis. So I'm just going to close some of these tabs, and I'm clicking my link, and here it comes. So this is a subset of the SCN, the community network. So this is the wiki, okay? And a wiki, as we all know, is a public living document that can be edited or contributed to by anyone. There is a review or moderation process often. So these are actively maintained, these pages, and this I would say is the landing page for business intelligence, and you can see we have a whole raft of information here from the platform side to the clients to the SDKs and so on and so forth. You can see the recently updated here. So this is a really fantastic page to navigate. One of the pages that it does link to is the famous pattern books. Now the pattern books are step-by-step guides which complement the admin guides that we have in help.sap.com, but the admin guides are rather dry and uninteresting, whereas these pattern books, if I find one to select, so this example here is how to upgrade from XI 3.1 to BI 4.1. If I was to click on this link here now, then you get a very neatly organized project, and if I was to just click on this illustration here of landscape overview, and if I were to click on the target, it will show me a schematic of my my planned implementation. And you can see this is a complex landscape. We've got clustering on the processing tiers, got clustering on the application tiers, got a split web tier, proxies, load balances, Active Directory controllers, you name it. And then you can literally go through the checklist, the upgrade workflow, and these are step by step with screenshots every bit of the way, holding your hand. You can't go wrong with a pattern book. And I'm just looking at the clock now. I've got 10 minutes, and that's great. The BI Platform Support Tool. If you haven't heard of this already, then I would strongly encourage you to search for this after the call. Our technical services use this day in, day out. They may have asked you already to use it to help gather traces, to help do a license audit, or to do a landscape analysis. So some of the key workflows with this platform support tool are landscape analysis reports. It can look across clusters, okay, and look at all the different hosts and services within those and check all the different configuration settings you've got on every part of your architecture. If there are any exceptions or anomalies, it will flag those for you. Equally, it can help you gather up end-to-end traces, which integrates also with SAP Passport. So you can use this tool to enable traces on the platform without having to get your hands dirty or asking the administrators to go and do it through the preferences, and it will set up a trace just for your specific user. Also, change analysis is super helpful. It will give you an update, a history of the updates on the platform and which settings have been changed when and by whom. A couple of other useful wikis. In the subject of conversion exercises, moving the UNV to the UNX. This is a really detailed article with all the different use cases you might want to consider, like the at prompt or at script syntax and how that transposes when you convert. All sorts of good stuff to be considered here. Again, technical wikis, and these should be screaming out at you at their relevance to your projects. Promotion management, previously known as lifecycle manager, how to promote content between environments. Matthew Shaw is one of the solution architects in AGS here in the UK, and he's put together this really comprehensive troubleshooting blog for promotion management, including best practices on how you should design and implement that solution. Things have changed quite a lot in recent versions, including command line interface and new performance thresholds. May not be aware that we have the ability to customize the Web Intelligence GUI on a per user or per folder basis, and this is to, for example, hide certain elements from users. So you may want to disable or enable certain features or interface components based on certain users or groups. And this is a really powerful way of simplifying the interface without having to hack files. And still on the topic of Webby, and I'm realizing that I'm rapidly approaching the top of the hour, so I will be quiet soon. There are further fine-tuning aspects to Web Intelligence, including different cache settings, etc., and other settings that you can enable to benefit from more modern memory management things like garbage collection, that kind of thing. So there's a whole raft of really useful resources out there. And also dovetailing again with the webinar we had about Webby calculation engine changes, there's also a technical blog here, or technical wiki, excuse me, about the formula rewrite mechanism. So in certain scenarios it might make sense to enable this parameter at a global level on the BI platform so that your impacted Webby documents automatically correct themselves at runtime. Shouldn't be done blindly, however. You need to have cast iron assurances that you need to put this parameter into place based on your identification of problem reports. And I mentioned multi-source universes, so I wanted to come back to it again. A lot of people struggle with the configuration on the BW ABAP side, the RFC destination and how these need to be configured with certain authorizations. So this is a BW basis type task, and as you all know, the business objects administrator may not necessarily be the same person as the BW basis admin. So this is a great guide that both of those audiences need to familiarize themselves with so that we can avoid support tickets being logged, especially at the AGS side here at SAP. So we have so much information out there in our network. It's really a case of bringing it to the surface and making sure that you can access it at the right time. So Jan, Kashish, questions. Difference between tracing and Wiley Intrascope and platform support tool. Okay, the BI platform has its own tracing mechanism. That is the same trace that the platform support tool will use. It's just that the platform support tool is like a one-click. If you say start traces now, it will start it for your user on all of the affected processing servers, and when you click stop trace, it will stop all of the traces. So you don't have to go through every server and disable it. And why the intrascope? That's a good question. So the transaction tracer, which is the lowest level of tracing that intrascope can do, you can focus it on a per user basis, and it measures the runtime of each function call, and it displays them in a really nice tree-like structure, so that you can see that, yes, 75% of my 500 milliseconds was spent on this get members call or something like that, and then it will show you that get members was on object 0 material, and it fetched 36,000 records, that kind of thing. So it will show you exactly where the time spent and how it was broken down. Do we need to have Wiley installed for support tool to work? No. The support tool is totally standalone and is just a utility. The Wiley Intrascope is more of an enterprise monitoring tool. The next question coming in. I'm new into admin. Any suggestions for architecture? Yeah, definitely. So Brian, the search terms for you is the pattern books. So there are BI pattern books. I'll type that in now. In fact, yeah.
Let me know if you want to share the screen again.
Yeah, BI pattern books on SCN wikis. And that will take you step by step, give you an example of a proposed architecture, things to consider, and how to break those down into bite-sized pieces. So Jan, thanks for giving me the time to talk about these topics. I have finished my presentation for today.